Hello, and welcome to Alternatives Counseling. This is Organic Medicine for Mental Health, and my name is Alice Coppers. I have been in LCSW for over 30 years in the California prison system and the state hospital at Atascadero. Today, we're going to talk about something that affects more people than depression or anxiety or PTSD. It affects 1 in 4 households, and we see a lot of the affects of it, the results of it in the school system, in the prison system, in the state hospital system. So this is a topic that I have been studying for more than 30 years and that you don't hear much of. Most clinicians don't assess for domestic violence. They don't know how to assess for violence, and they don't know how to predict future violence in people. I also think it's the types of jobs that the clinician has had that gives them experience, not the books they've read. So here goes, domestic violence. 1 in 4 households suffers from domestic violence. Domestic violence starts out verbal, and it is a very intentional violence, but it almost always results in physical, and also 90% of the cases involve a male perpetrator. So 9 out of 10 times it's a man that is hurting the people. It causes shame, low self-esteem, guilt, hopelessness, and accounts for about half the female suicides in America. That's sad, but it's true, and you'll see why when we discuss the profiles of these individuals. But female suicides is adults, okay? That does not include adolescents and children. Domestic violence is a verbal and physical abuse against the most vulnerable of our society, women, elders, children, and the disabled. And there are phases of domestic violence that the individual goes through. And these are the textbook phases right here, but there are more intricate phases. I think Dr. Romani on YouTube does a really good profile of these individuals, and you'd probably, if you wanted to dwell into more how to deal with it, what is all the methods that they use and why they use them, she's a great resource. But anyway, we're going to go over these 5 today, and the first one is the honeymoon phase. They seek out introverts, they seek out the uneducated, and empaths to control. And empaths are people that are empathic to others easily. Oh, that poor dog, and he's hungry, and yeah, that's an empath. Or the children need my help, I'm going to go volunteer. That's the kind of empath that they would seek out. Introverts, people that are quiet, introverted, stay to themselves, okay? Unlike this individual. One of the biggest phases is the put-down phase. And I call it that because it's the time when the perpetrator has gone from flowers and candy and I love yous and all of these things very quickly, usually less than 6 months, into a put-down phase where they start to say, well, you know, you could use a little weight loss there. Or they'll say, well, the spaghetti you made last night, it was missing this and that, and it didn't have this and that. But they make you feel inadequate. They make you feel like you're not doing your best, okay? And also, they make others look really bad, too, to you. So you lose your friends, you lose your family, you lose your coworkers, and your support system that you had before this relationship. Also, they try to make themselves look good. So they'll put you down. For example, I had one tell me, well, women don't know how to use a chainsaw. Let me show you how. And then when he was showing me how, little did he know I already knew, he was showing me ways that were not safe. So I was right away on red alert with this individual. But that's the kind of things they'll do to set you up, okay? Also, they use photos, phone calls, and emails to gather evidence. So again, this is the put-down phase, but they'll make it look like, oh, let me take a picture of you today with the cat, okay, on your phone. And so he takes a picture, and then later on it's, well, you know, I'd really like to take a picture of you today in your bathing suit or your underwear or in nothing without your knowledge of it. As you come out of the shower, snaps a picture and then uses it against you later on. And so they will look for little things that the individual has involved in their life, and they'll say, okay, this is something that person really likes, adores, values, let me get some dirt on them, okay? And that's what the put-down phase is about. They like to get a lot of dirt on you, and they might gather this for years before they use it as a threat against you. But when you want to leave, or when you want to change directions, what'll happen is they'll start to bring out this evidence, okay? So that's what the put-down phase is for. They'll call you incompetent, they'll call you ugly, they'll call you all kinds of things, and it'll be in such a way that it really hurts, okay? That they can tell that this person is affected by their words. So that's how they're controlling. The third thing that they have to have is they have to believe there's no consequences. No consequences to their behavior. So this is why you often find these types of individuals in jobs of authority. Police officers or church leaders, scout leaders, okay? Is because they feel like if you go to somebody and you make them try to look bad, well, they've got all this evidence on how good they are. They built a park, they went down to Mexico and built an orphanage for homeless children. You know, they've done all this really great stuff, but they believe they're going to get away scot-free, okay? I had one, his daughter was the 911 dispatcher, and because of that, he felt that he could do anything he wanted to anyone, and when they called the police, she would send the police out to arrest the person that was the victim. And this went on for a long time. So, and it depends on your community too. You know, they might be third generation and have contacts. You know, the head sheriff guy here, Hannon, if you have contacts with him, you might use that to make yourself have no consequences, okay? So that's the kind of thing where you'll find a lot of these perpetrators associated with. They'll be associated with churches, and because, you know, if you're a leader in the church, then you can't possibly be a bad person, all right? And they rule all the resources, okay? So if you have property, they make it theirs automatically. If you, they don't have no boundaries, okay? So that's the other part of no consequences. There's no boundaries. Everything belongs to them. And they also think that even though they may get exposed, okay, that they can still fight it because they have enough contacts or enough good references behind them, enough clout and power in their job, etc., that they're never going to get they're never going to do time or pay a fine or be exposed that way. Also, a lot of the no consequences is, a lot in Oregon at least here, is that they only have to go to an anger management group. And as we'll discuss in treatment, that's the worst thing you can do with this individual, because they'll turn it around and they'll use it against their victims. Well, you need to manage your anger better. You need to calm down and quit being so dramatic, you know, just because your dog died, that kind of thing. And so they kind of do that. And we're getting into the fourth one, which is narcissistic personality. Right now in America, about 1 in 3 adults between the age of 20 and 80 has narcissistic personality. It can be females, but the majority is males. And the narcissistic personality is like a little child in a playpen. They believe the whole world evolves around them and owes them and should take care of them and should give to them and support them and all that kind of stuff. They also think they're very intelligent, and they think that they can outsmart anyone. They do a lot of studying in warfare and studying books on gang activities, things like that. Also, narcissistic personality is the type of individual that is very immature and causes a lot of drama. So that's how they destroy lives, and that's also how they make their domestic partners stay in the relationship, is by causing drama, and then when the police come, turning it around on the victim and saying she's drunk and she did this and that and this and I had to jump in, and who do they believe? Also, in one thing that's out here in the country called the good old boy system, it's found a lot. Narcissistic personality, that somehow the male is dominant over the resources and the female is a resource. So that's part of it, and I encourage you to look it up because it's very complicated when you're assessing for it. And if clinicians want to learn further on this, this is something that you're going to have to take some time and some books on. And once you detect it, your antenna go up as soon as somebody like this walks in the room. You can tell. Most narcissists are not in prison. Most are in like powerful positions and heads of businesses and heads of government and things like that. And most narcissists, it's an intergenerational thing. They've learned it from the parent. And so that also carries on a lot of learning theory, okay, which it's hard to say that it's not genetics, but narcissistic personality may be a survival tactic from long, thousands of years ago. But today, it is those who can lie, cheat, and steal the most that get the most. And in a just society, in a patriotic society, if we follow the Constitution, this should be frowned upon. Okay? And I'm going to get into number 5 here and talk a little bit about the last one, because this is where a lot of the police and FBI and other officials, they don't see the victim story as valid, okay? Because the victims are fearing for their lives and they can't come forth. They're in fight or flight 24/7. So if I have a kid from a home where there's domestic violence, he's always on the lookout and he doesn't trust anyone, and he's got a lot of skepticism about life, not very optimistic, kind of sarcastic, and starting to pull other people's chains just to see how he can get a reaction or she can get a reaction. But mostly it's he, 90%. So one of the things that they do with their victims is they make it so they can never leave. And so they have to stay forever. They're dependent either financially or physically, where I mentioned disabled, children, elders, okay, and women. Or they don't want to leave the lifestyle. Their entire family depends on this, and there's a lot of other people affected. So they will use stories like, well, she's the crazy one. You know, she's always depressed. Every time we go somewhere, in a family outing or Christmas or holidays, she's always depressed. And so they start that kind of setting up the picture of the victims, okay? The children too, there'll be, well, he's got autism spectrum, and so he can never do anything like that, or play piano, or whatever the kid's trying to do or the teacher's trying to encourage. And yet that's untrue, but that's how he lowers their self-esteem and puts power over them, that they cannot survive alone, that there's no way they're going to make it out there in this world without this individual supporting them. So these people can make a lot of money, and they can have a lot of property and cars and businesses and things like that, and then they use it to control all the resources. So everything's under their control. You may get an allowance, but you do not get to control the resources, okay? And one of the things I want to say about treatment, because we've looked at a lot of anger management type courses in the course of my career and in different institutions. And one of the things that we found with these individuals, these perpetrators, is they'll use it against the victims. They won't apply it to themselves because, of course, they're the best. I mean, how could they need improvement? And so that's where therapy becomes a very, very difficult issue with these individuals. And there's no empathy for other people. The victim deserved it, Well, they shouldn't be walking around acting like they're rich or looking like they're rich. Then they're going to get robbed. That kind of talk, okay? So another thing is that when they do get exposed or get into prisons or stuff, their denial is so great that therapy really, really doesn't help much. And so I'm going to say something here, and it could be offensive to some people who turn out to be narcissists, but I haven't found any really effective treatment for narcissism yet. It just, it may get humbled if their health goes really, really bad, but they still are very demanding in the hospitals or the convalescent homes. Caregivers leave because they're so screaming, yelling, and drama, even though they're disabled. So they don't really stop. And so that's why I say I don't think there is a treatment for domestic violence perpetrators. I think our society would need to deal with them another way, and I'll leave that up to society. But I want to thank you for today. I could go a lot deeper into this subject, but it's already 18 minutes, and YouTube charges me 3 days just to upload the video. So if you would like more information or you want the references to everything I just said, please go to my website at www.alternativescounselingllc.com. And peace, and see you next week. Thank you.